Welcome to the We Have More Than We Know podcast with your host, Michael Ray.
Yo. How's that? Are we Gucci?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, you're good.
My bad on that. Welcome to the podcast. Hope everybody's having a wonderful night. I don't know what happened there with the audio. You know, we're always going to have issues. Just a part of the plan, part of the distress to always try to throw us off. How's everybody doing this evening, this great Saturday evening, which is, if you're on the West Coast or Central Time, you're still the 17th. We're over here on the East Coast, it's the 18th. So, sorry about the audio issues. We're just always going to run into nonsense like that. But, nothing we can do about it but move forward and, lean into the pain, as they would say. Am I too loud, too soft? Too quiet? How's the audio? Just want to make sure everything is good before we get the show going. We still love you. Well, you know what? I appreciate every single one of you because we're about to change the world and it's going to be great. So, get excited. Raspy? Really? I sound raspy? I don't know how to change that, so that's a tough one. Alright, so yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to change my voice somehow. But what I'll say, everything's good. Wouldn't want any issues. So, how's that? Is that a little bit better? Lost me. How's the volume now, Spirit? Let's see. Add you as a moderator. Mic cutting in and out. Oh, that's because I muted it, but is it... How do I sound? Do I sound all right? Sound good? Sounds all right? Yes. All righty. Okay. So, this evening's podcast is going to cover somebody very inspirational, somebody that I think doesn't get a lot of due credit, but I believe deserves the utmost level of credit. And that somebody is Aaron Swartz. Don't know if you're familiar with him. Don't know if you are, knowing his story, but I believe you will after this evening. So it connects to a lot of the dots that we're trying to cover. It also retrospectively leads in perfectly and ties in perfectly with the last episode that we did, talking about the amazing Department of Homeland Security. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cover a couple of things. First and foremost, what we'll start off with is one of the investigations that essentially was the precursor for the same investigator who investigated Aaron Swartz. And so the reason why we're going to do a deep dive into this investigation is because, number one, I think it's really vitally important. And it also kind of connects to another AS that allows us to see just how relevant some of this information is. So I promise you stick with me. It may be a prolonged episode, but it will be highly impactful rather. And what we're going to do is announce some good progress, finally some good news, right? Some activism, some action that we're going to be taking place on the account of Plus Ultra. And so that's going to be later on in the episode. I'll go into that in a little bit of detail. But to start off, we got an episode of American Greed. And in this episode of American Greed, they cover a few topics. And the topics are of vital importance and relevance. And so, absolutely, this documentary is amazing. I suggest and request that everyone watch this documentary. It is the internet's own boy. It ties in a lot to the Internet Bill of Rights, fighting for what we believe is right and what we believe is the right to free speech, the ability to speak, the ability to be heard. And you can't really do that with these big tech Nazis. So we're going to go ahead and roll into this first clip, and it's going to touch on, as I said, it's an episode of American Greed. I think it was from about 2013, 2014. A lot of hooky spookiness in it, and we'll point it out, we'll call it out, we'll label it for what it is. But we'll let this first clip play. And here it goes. Let it roll.
By 2005, Albert Gonzalez and his crew have successfully hacked into several retailers along US 1 in South Florida. These big box stores send data to corporate servers, which Gonzalez knows is the real gold mine.
It's very much a case of like, well, hang on, if I can do it to these couple of individuals in a store, or if I can do it to these couple of stores, can I do it to more stores? Can I do it to a series of stores? Can I do it to a bigger store? And then you go to, can I actually get the core centralized system? And then it's like, wow, okay, if I can get the core system, who processes all that data? I can go for the mother load at that point.
He orders his crew to perform reconnaissance on potential targets.
They identified them in a variety of ways. Christopher Scott simply going up and down Route 1 with his computer, seeing where there were vulnerable access points, going down the list of Fortune 500 companies, identifying companies that shared a common credit card processing system, or identifying ones that had vulnerable payment systems.
So walk in, maybe make a purchase, or just walk in and look to see what point of sales terminal the stores were using, so they could reverse engineer how to break into the corporate networks through these different point of sales terminals.
That July, they hit TJX Companies, the publicly traded parent of Marshalls and TJ Maxx.
Christopher Scott breaks into 2 vulnerable wireless access points at 2 Marshall stores along Route 1 in Florida. Within a matter of weeks, he's able to move from there into one of the major payment card processing servers that TJX is using.
You have access at that point in time to the corporate site, because now you have all of these stores that are sending their daily, weekly, monthly batches all the way up to the corporate location.
Chris Scott, Gonzalez's foot soldier, explores the network.
He gets increasing amounts of rights or privileges to move around the system and discovers a storage location that has 40 or 50 million payment card numbers.
They download that batch of data, but Gonzalez isn't satisfied. He wants access to all the numbers coming into TJX, not just the numbers in storage. In May 2006, Chris Scott installs and configures a VPN, or Virtual Private Network.
Albert's crew had set up a virtual private network, which is a secure connection between TJX's server and one of Albert's servers. So whenever they wanted to, they could just tap that keg, open up the connection, and let the data stream from TJX's server right onto Albert's.
Scott then installs a sniffer code, the program that copies numbers while they're being processed.
It turns out that there's a very tiny window of time when the credit and debit card numbers aren't being encrypted, when it happens to be in the open as it's being processed. And it's during that period that they make a photocopy of it all for themselves.
Using the handle 201679996, Gonzalez instant messages Maxim Yastrzemski, his Ukrainian partner in crime. In that chat, he mentions the sniffer code. Soon, Yastrzemski could expect more data. Business is booming for Gonzalez. whose crew downloads more than 45 million card numbers through December 2006.
All right. Is that a little... Oh, let's turn this up. There we go. How's that? Is it a little bit better? Are you there? I am there, but, you know, of course, they got to mess with the audio. So the important things I want to highlight from that clip are, number one, Maxim Yastrzemski, and then you got Mr. Gonzalez. So Mr. Gonzalez, in that actual clip, what they don't tell you, what they fail to mention until later on, is that Mr. Gonzalez is actually an informant making $75K a year working for the Secret Service. Now, that's the Secret Service newly formulated under the Department of Homeland Security just a year earlier. And that's... So what is this nonsense? Why do you have this agent stealing credit card numbers from millions and millions of people? And better yet, why is he working for the Secret Service making $75K a year? Even more than that, if the whole purpose of DHS incorporating, quote unquote, all the other departments into one agency, the whole reason for that was supposedly, I mean, according to Mr. Bush, was to provide better communication among intelligence agencies and among the government. Well, we're going to find out throughout this little American Greed episode, then, which will then lead us into Aaron Swartz and his story, because the same prosecutor, that same Gollum-looking crook snake of a spook, who's still a AUSA, or still a current U.S. attorney working within the district of, I think it's somewhere in Boston, but doesn't matter. Point being, he's a scumbag. I don't care. Doesn't matter. But you did hear two things, right? You heard the sniffer gadget, and you'd also heard something else, I believe, how through the corporate, miss you too, Satori, through the corporate systems, right? These feeble hackers, apparently, these clowns, were able to somehow get into the corporate data set. Now, this was through, I believe, what he said was point of sales systems. And that should ring a bell, I think. I'm going to put up a couple of images that might bring some connections to another AS that we all know well. So you know, we'll go ahead and let this next clip run. And I promise it's not going to be too much Mr. Steinbart conversation, but it's just a good connection to make with regard to the sniffer gadgets, getting through corporate systems, and using payment data centers. So let that roll.
College together during our sophomore year to focus on our point-of-sale IT systems business, one we used as cover to gain access to many of the targets of this operation. During the course of this mission, I have personally infiltrated many hotel chains such as Hilton, Marriott, Embassy Suites, Hamilton Inn, and La Quinta. And I left behind some of these Pine 64 sniffer gadgets that I made myself, plugged into their guest Wi-Fi servers, so that I could monitor backpage ads being posted. I also infiltrated major data centers like this one, an internet backbone data center on 40th Street in Phoenix, run by a company called Iron Mountain, which has military-grade security, including these snazzy little man traps, aka glass tubes, and these iris scanners where you have to stick your face up to the thing and it scans you. Also went to an internet data center run by AT&T that's located in Mesa, Arizona, and also infiltrated a data center in Chandler run by a company called First Data, which is the company that facilitates credit card processing for many major banks and Fortune 500 corporations. In fact, a huge percentage of the international credit card processing traffic happening in the United States today flows through this payment data center here in Chandler. Here's me with the guy who runs it.
All right, we're going through the man trap. Oh, we're in tube with the hand scanner. And Tony, this is Tony's place.
What's up?
Also been to top secret document warehouses like this one, a massive building with several stories worth of racks, which had tens of millions of classified documents stored. I also have the IT contracts for the White Mountain Apache Reservation, a tribe up in northern Arizona. You can easily Google and verify that. So as you can see, we have
easily Google and verify that. But interesting nonetheless, right? I mean, payment processing data center, international, one of the biggest international payment processing data centers he mentions. So that's just a little tidbit that I wanted to throw in there so people can kind of make some more connections. And so we'll continue on this American greed. Iron Mountain, yes. Iron Mountain data centers. So interesting to see what might come, what may or may not come from those data centers in the future. But we'll go ahead and let the rest of this awesome American greed episode play. I say awesome sarcastically because we're going to tear it apart.
If you shopped at any of these retail stores during that period of time, there's a very good chance that your credit card or debit card was compromised.
That Christmas, more than 18 months after Gonzalez's crew first hit TJX, the retail giant detects suspicious software on its systems. Alarm bells sound, and the feds begin to investigate.
We didn't know if it was one individual, if it was several different groups doing these compromises.
What did we know from the forensics as to where it was going? Did it look like anybody else that we'd ever seen? All of these things were being carefully followed out, wholly, I'm embarrassed to say, unsuccessfully.
By January 2007, Gonzalez has pulled in more than 45 million credit and debit card numbers from TJX, and he decides to get out of the corporate system. But trouble is beginning to brew half a world away.
The Secret Service had been conducting a totally separate and totally unrelated investigation into Maxim Yastrzemski for his international sale of credit and debit card numbers.
Turkish authorities arrest Maxim Yastrzemski that July.
That leads to the seizure of a laptop computer, which the Turks provide to the Secret Service.
When they opened up his computer, they found all kinds of things, including lots of chat logs with an American who went by an obscure string of numbers.
201-679996 is passing on a piece of software and says it's one that I modified for use in TJX. And that starts the investigation of who 201 is and how Maxim Yastrzemski relates to TJX and to other investigations.
They find further chats about a breach of Dave & Buster.
So what they're trying to say is if you had your card stolen through this crew at any point in time, you're effed. And, what are we doing here? It says temporarily blocked because we detected a copyright audio. Well, of course. Who is surprised there? Okay, so we can't keep playing that video, apparently. All right, so what we're going to do is move on to the next set of clips. Essentially, to give you a... Yeah, policy violations, right? Nonsense. Can you hear me still? That's a good question I should ask. Did they kill the stream? Am I back? Can you hear me? Oh, we're back. What a bunch of fucking losers, dude. So we got people at YouTube straight up chilling here, like watching this live. How fucking bored are you, dude? Find something better to do with your life. Like, don't even care. I really don't. I don't think this channel is going to last very long, and they can honestly... I won't say anything rude, but what I will say is go to plusultra.org, click on the link to the website, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fighting back. That's right, I said it, fighting back. We are going to present some legal challenges. And YouTube, I hope you guys take me off of your stream for simply presenting information that was presented on live television like 9 years ago. Please do make my case for me. I would love and invite you to do so. So what Plus Ultra is, because I already know that if I play any more content, they're just going to boot us off. So let's just get a little bit of information out there with regards to Plus Ultra. So what we're going to do is we're going to have people obviously volunteering. We're not going to rely on the lawyers, esquires, and barristers that otherwise would not actually give us the truth. Because the truth of the matter is, ever since every other president has been in office, outside of the last president, Donald J. Trump, the truth of the matter is every single case that you can fathom, so like your 9/11 cases, your cases against the government, your government watchdogs, they have all been set up. And they've been set up through what is known as this entity called this United States Corporation. And so at the end of the day, policy violation, but we're going to continue to let you stream because we both know it's bullshit. Yeah, right? I know. Like, he played an American Greed clip. Oh my gosh. I didn't know you weren't allowed to comment on content. I'm pretty sure there was a case about that like 2.5 years ago. Pretty sure that's actually something I'm allowed to do. But, you go ahead and do your thing, YouTube. Anyways, pathetic that they're actually watching this stream right now. But the greater point is, we are the power, right? We are what's going to fight back against this corporation. Because now, with what happened with Austin, right? He had sent people to essentially present some truths to a corporation, and what happened? He wound up in jail. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that idea, right? Where, okay, we understand, or we know, the greater majority of us know that this is a corporation that is pretending or purporting to present itself as a form of government. We know it's just a movie. We know they're just actors, like the whole Pack in the Court presser, which was hilarious, I personally thought. But forget that for now, right? So instead of going along with their plan and saying, oh, you know what, we can't do anything, they've got all the power, the mainstream media is censoring us, we have no say in what we do, that's not the truth. Because the fact of the matter is we actually have documentation of their misuse. We have documentation of their illicit activity that has to do with the criminal justice system, that has to do with the multiple versions of citizens, that has to do with, as it goes and goes, with the idea that they're incorporated. We have those financial documents, and we have a lot of that information, and we're going to be presenting it. So how do we go about doing that? We go about doing that by getting on their level, right? You can't be equal to a corporation unless you yourself are a corporation. So what I'm doing is founding Plus Ultra, and Plus Ultra is going to be a organization that fights for the common people. And of course, we're going to have different segues of what we do, and that's going to be presented within the next week. But what we stand for is bringing power back to the people, making citizens, essentially, capital C citizens, equal again, taking down the empire, so to speak, and doing it legally, right? Doing it through legal means. And by no means is it going to be fun, and by no means is it going to be easy, but the great thing is it's going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody working together, coming together, and doing what we can to change this insane, overly consolidated power structure that is this current administration and just other presidencies of the past. So where they slipped up was essentially while they were creating their laws, when they needed to switch it from regular, actual, authentic law over to the corporation and the nonsense aspects of it, what they failed to do was cover up their misdeeds. Now, what I'll do is I'll record this episode. I'll record it off of air, and then I'll drop it on multiple channels, so then that way we can still get the information out. But essentially, Aaron Swartz went in and was trying to get public law and make it accessible to everybody. And what I'll do, because I already know they're going to shut me down if I play any more clips, is I will bring up his, essentially what was the first set of Internet Bill of Rights, and I will go over that. But what I can also do is share my screen, I think, if that's allowed. Let's see. So let's do this. Okay. So just for starters, right? 98.5% of federal laws are written by bureaucrats. So literally, there's over 300,000 federal crimes on the books. So if you don't think there's something they can catch you or slip you up on, they never clear out the old laws. They keep all laws on the books and in the books, and they never swap it out. So think about this for a second. If we go here, so this is a Manhattan Institute study, because I really enjoy using their own work to dispel what they're doing. And so this says one of the core drivers over criminalization is that 98% of more than 300,000 crimes on America's books were never voted on by Congress. So they're illegal. Moving forward, we'll keep reading. As we go down, go back up, we at the Manhattan Institute have dubbed this phenomenon criminalization without representation. In our view, it represents one of the most egregious usurpations of power by the state from the people in American history. Now, it continues to get interesting. It only gets more and more interesting, actually. So this is a study by the Heritage Foundation, revisiting the explosive growth of federal crimes. And so here's amazing. Like this to me is just mind-boggling. So it says, so large is the present body of federal criminal law that there is no conveniently accessible complete list of federal crimes. Let that sink in for a second. So you have to follow all these laws. You, a citizen, right? We the people. We have to follow all these laws. And these assholes don't even have a complete list of the laws that we have to follow? Are you kidding me? They don't even have they haven't had a list for over 30 years. This is from 1880 or 1984 is the last time they did a list on Title 18 laws. So if you don't think that they can just find a law that you somehow were illegally, failing to abide by, even though you never knew about them because they don't list them publicly, I mean, that idea is just, it's pathetic. It says not only is the number of statutes large, but the statutes are scattered and complex. The situation presents a twofold challenge. One, determining what statute counts as crimes, and two, determining whether, as to the different provisions within a section or subsection, there is more than a single crime, and if so, how many? Well, how are we supposed to know if you guys won't list them? Like, how are we supposed to follow the law or abide by the law if we don't know what the law is, right? How does anybody fight this system if we're not even privy, we're not even allowed to access these public laws, so quote unquote public. Now, what's amazing to me is one of the systems that the amazing Aaron Swartz exposed in his the internet. So it's the Internet's Own Boy. I highly suggest and recommend everybody watch that documentary. But one of the systems that he infiltrated and got information on was the Westlaw Library of Public Laws. So what's funny is in this very report by the Heritage Foundation, they mention here, for purposes of continuity, this report, like my previous one, relied on Westlaw searches using the same terms as the ABA, or the American Bar Association, which is not the bar is not a, it's not a licensure. It's not a group that it's fake. It's F&G as some would follow. So it literally is F&G because the American Bar Association is a membership. You pay annually to be a part of the bar. And there is nothing preventing you, a person, a normal, average Joe without a license to be a bar attorney or present yourself at the bar, without that licensure, which they all pay for. And I've talked to plenty of lawyers, and I've asked them, who do you swear your oath to? And they all respond, oh, well, I think I swore my oath one time, and it was at the initial hearing when I first got my license. I was super excited. I don't even really remember what I said. And I said, so you don't swear your oath to the Constitution? And they said, no, we don't have to do that. We swear our oath one time, and then we never have to swear it again. I said, so you don't swear your oath to the laws that were written to govern our institutions and our founding. You don't swear your oath to that Constitution, but we do. We raise our hands in their courts, and we swear to do what? Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Well, why don't they? Who's their oath to? Who's their allegiance to? I can tell you, it's to their shareholders. It's to the bar. It's to the crown. It's to the English common law. And I'm not joshing you with that one. That's just facts. So we'll go into this next part. So for this report, however, we went beyond the terms used by the ABA report and found more crimes and amendments to existing laws that did not contain those search terms. Just searching the database of statutes passed each year using the terms fine and imprison, the ABA report approach does not yield a comprehensive list of crimes because it does not capture statutory amendments that do not contain either of those terms. So essentially, these people just do like minimal digging, just like very, very basic digging, and they stumble upon more laws that none of us are capable of seeing, hearing, or being a party to. And so that should blow your mind for a few reasons, but most importantly, we don't even have access to the laws we're supposed to follow. How insane is that? Like, because it's private, right? So from my standpoint, I understand it, but for the majority of the public, they don't get that. Because no one should understand that. No one should comprehend the idea that, oh yeah, there's like all these other laws that you need to follow, but like we're not going to give you them, or we're not going to tell you how they were passed, or present you with the facts that they were passed. Well, what I can tell you is Title 18 USC, bogus, was never passed, was never lawfully passed. So when you see the president, or the last president that I recognize, Donald J. Trump, say, we are going to follow the Constitution as written. And he says it quite often, actually. Follow the Constitution as written. So I think what he's getting at is some of these clowns have tried to change the Constitution, pass laws illegally, outside of the Article V process of passing a law. And so we'll just go into some more insane stats. So only 2% of federal criminal defendants go to trial, and most who do are found guilty. So think about this. Think about the idea that Title 18 USC is a bunch of bullshit. Okay, just trust me. I'll get to it in a later episode. I'll explain it more. But for just now, every Title 18 USC case or charge that you see. So for example, you have Edward Snowden's trial, right? All the charges he's been tried for and of, criminal things that he's been caught doing illegally, right? All of those are not legal. They're not real laws, right? It's just the idea of making you feel the heat and pressure of these organizations filing all these charges against you. So for example, with Austin's case, you had, what was it? Oh, Title 18 USC, a bunch of computer charges they really rarely, and if or ever, get people to actually plead guilty to. Now, they get them to plead, rather, sorry, I should correct that. They do get them to plead guilty to, but that's because they just sit there and they keep on stacking charges. They don't want you to understand and know that if you actually took it to the actual trial, I mean, first of all, they'll make you sit and wait and rot, and that's never fun. But the point is, the law is on your side because they're jurisdictionally they have no standing. Their courts are sitting on a private system. It literally is a corporation. So a corporation doesn't care whether you believe their laws make sense or not. As long as they get you into their courtroom and they get you to obey the judge, right? You are becoming subject to that judge. Then what happens is by virtue of essentially your consent, your ill-advised consent, you are participating in their system. So while people will say, well, I've seen situations where, private police forces have came in and took people in and forced them to go to court. It's like, okay, yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean it's constitutional. And that doesn't mean that it's legal. And that doesn't mean that it's okay. So what they've done and what they've been doing is essentially going to Wonderland to an extent, because they've just created this law in their minds. So if God creates you, right, your inalienable rights are essentially presented to you by God, right? No man can create laws that you should have to obey. Now, if they flip that on its head and they create their own little system, and that system forces you to obey their laws rather than obeying the laws of, your God, well, now that takes man and turns man into a god. So it's a fictitious system. It's a nonsensical system, but it's their creation. It's their wonderland. They make whatever they want out of that idea, Because if you think something up and you create a system and people choose to participate in that system, so it's a choice, remember that. It is absolutely a choice. If you choose to participate in their system by registering to vote, which is the process of registration, right? By putting your name on your ID, by signing up for their banking system, you can also choose to do the opposite. Think Ripple, think Bitcoin, think any of these cryptocurrencies, right? What are those really though? Is that maybe potentially a way to break the bank? I don't know. I'm not sure, right? But it would seem like a great way to sidestep it and get around it, prepare people for it. Now getting back into grand juries. So what we'll do is I'll play this clip. Hopefully we won't lose the feed by playing this clip. But this is Julian Assange. And what he's doing is he's going over essentially grand juries. And I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip. But what he says is very, very vital and very, very important. Because what you have to remember about grand juries is that they are absolute nonsense. There's no just cause for grand juries. But I'll go ahead and play this clip and we'll talk about it after.
Type of medieval star chamber. There are these 19 to 23 individuals from the population that are sworn to secrecy. They cannot consult with anyone else. There is no judge, there is no defense counsel, and there are 4 prosecutors. So that is why people that are familiar with grand jury inquiries in the United States say that a grand jury would not only indict a ham sandwich, it would indict the ham and the sandwich. And that's a real threat to us. A grand jury, which was removed from UK jurisprudence because of abuses, combines the executive and the judiciary. So this old common law notion of the separation of these branches of power is removed in the grand jury. The US government argues that these captive 19 to 23 individuals are the branch of the judiciary, that they perform a judicial function, where of course actually they're just captive patsies for the Department of Justice of the United States and the FBI. So they have been going out and they have coercive powers. They can force people to testify, and they have been pulling in all sorts of people that are connected to WikiLeaks and people that are not. They have recently, a number of individuals that have been pulled to the grand jury understand what is going on, and they have refused to testify and have pleaded the First Amendment, Third Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination to, well, I'm not sure the purpose, I don't have direct communication, but from the outside it appears to nullify that political witch hunt in the United States against us. Now, in response, the grand jury has been instructed to send out immunity certificates. So these are certificates that go to subpoenaed individuals that say that if you come to the grand jury to testify, your testimony cannot be used against you, and therefore you have no right to plead the Fifth. What this means in practice is coerced, compulsive interrogation in secret with no defense counsel. There's not even lawyers for the subpoenaed witnesses are permitted into the grand jury. It is just the prosecutors and these people from six kilometres away from centre Washington. That's something that should be opposed. There's another grand jury that has sprung up in the United States and is investigating anti-war activists engaged in the same sort of witch hunt. So these are really a classical device that was looked at very critically in the UK 400 years ago, and the result in the UK is this concept that if justice is to be done, it must be done publicly. And that has been a concept that is waylaid. It's interesting why or how it has been waylaid. So that on the surface, this device of, well, you want the police to have an investigation. The executive says it wants to conduct an investigation into some group of people. Well, we get people from the community, 19 to 23 people from the community, and they monitor the investigation. They make sure it's not overstepping and so on. But actually, this has been turned on its head and used as a way to completely subvert the judicial system in the United States. Type of
So insane, right? So maybe a bit hard to hear what he was saying, but essentially what they do is they take 19 to 23 individuals and they take them from 6 square kilometers outside of DC. Essentially ends up being, or Virginia rather. So it's a bunch of bureaucrats, right? Because if you go full circle outside of a hub and swamp of bureaucrats, you're going to end up with 19 to 23, more than likely, bureaucrats. And if you don't end up with the right bureaucrats you want, you find different ways to eliminate those bureaucrats. Now, the reason why grand jury indictments are so vitally important is because they may claim on the outside that you're actually getting to bring counsel, you get to be represented. No, you don't. They're not allowed inside the courtroom. So you can bring counsel, and they can sit outside, but you don't get counsel inside. You also don't get your Fifth Amendment right, because by virtue of accepting to go to plea at this, well, I mean, really, you're not accepting anything because they're actually forcing you to go. But by virtue of this, and I'll actually show you. See if I can bring this up. So when he brings up indicting the ham sandwich, it's not a joke. It's actually from a Supreme Court case where one of the justices says that specifically, yeah, you know, a grand jury would indict the ham and the ham sandwich. And so while that's important, what I want to get at is this right here. So here's a copy of from the Swartz testimony. This is a copy of United States District Court, which is of the state of DC. But it says, of course, District of Massachusetts. So it's a subpoena to testify before a grand jury. Now, you would think that that's a choice, right? Well, no. You are commanded to appear in this United States District Court at the time, date, and place shown below to testify before the court's grand jury. When you arrive, you must remain in the court until the judge or a court officer allows you to leave. Sounds like freedom, right? You must also bring with you the following documents: electronically stored information or objects. See attachment. If you have any questions, please forget your rights at the door. We'll keep going down. So what does it say even further? You are required to produce all documents, records, and data relating to, regarding, or referring to the following: Guerrilla Open Access, materials used on the Guerrilla Open Access Facebook page, the Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto, written, oral, and electronic communications concerning this Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto, more nonsense, electronic downloading, transfer, distribution, uploading to file sharing sites, and or storage of scientific journal articles, GuerrillaOpenAccess.com, GuerrillaOpenAccess.net, and or AaronSW.com. All this stuff they're forcing you to bring. If you don't bring it, not only do you not have your Fifth Amendment rights, but you are no longer immune if you don't do what they say. So it says, for the purposes of this subpoena, documents, records, and data include without limitation all written, printed, typed, photographed, recorded, and or otherwise produced or stored communication or representations, whether comprised of letters, words, numbers, pictures, or sounds or symbols, or any combination thereof, whether deliberately, inadvertently, or automatically stored. So even if you didn't put it onto your storage device, even if you had no idea that you were even in possession of it, you're screwed. Documents, records, and data include copies or duplicates of documents contemporaneously or subsequently created which have non-conforming notes or other markings, and the backsides of any communications or representations which contain any of the above. This is just fucking nonsense, right? Like, I don't even know why I'm reading it, because it's crazy. Transmitted by electronic. Please provide all documents, records, data files, and logs electronically. Now, here's the greatest part. Advice of rights. Yeah, those things that we don't give you, the privileges that we're going to allow you to have while you're in our courtroom. Here's the rights you get. The grand jury is conducting an investigation of possible violations of Criminal Conduct Code 18 U.S.C. which don't exist, intentionally accessing a computer without authorization, and obtaining information with a value that exceeds $5,000. 18 U.S.C. subsection 1030A4, accessing a protected computer without authorization or exceeding authorized access with intent to defraud. Now, here's the things you can do. Here's your rights. You may refuse to answer any question if a truthful answer to the question would tend to incriminate you. Anything that you do say may be used against you by the grand jury or in a subsequent legal proceeding. So if you don't do what we want you to do, what we ask you to do, what we say for you to do, yeah, we'll sue you in another civil proceeding. So do what we say. Act how we want you to act. Bring forth the judgment we want you to bring forth, or you can be sued and we'll put you in jail for not doing what we say. Anything that you do say may be used against you by the grand jury or in a subsequent legal proceeding. If you have retained counsel, here's the greatest part. If you did retain counsel, the grand jury will permit you a reasonable opportunity. Now, what is define reasonable opportunity? A reasonable opportunity by whose standard? The judge? So what if the judge decides the reasonable opportunity is 3 seconds? Okay, you got 3 seconds to go outside, talk to your attorney, come back. Okay, 3 seconds are up, come back. To step outside the grand jury room to consult with counsel if you so desire. How fucking ridiculous is that? And I don't mean to get so upbent and angry, but what a fucking racket. You are compelled to testify because they're telling you you have to. Your Fifth Amendment rights are waived because they combine the executive and the judicial branches in this special type of legislation, right? This special type of chamber called a grand jury. They're not the ones who are liable because the people they select, the 19 or 23 individuals, are the ones who render the actual hearing. They're the ones who actually judge the case, right? But the crazy part is they're not compelled to get in. They won't get in trouble for anything that they do because juries are never going to. Juries can't be laid blame for the choices that they make. Now I'm gonna play this next clip that's gonna explain in I guess a little bit more layman's term how grand juries work, but they're a freaking racket.
Some of the most high-profile court cases start with a grand jury, but while most juries look like this, a grand jury does not even involve a trial. A grand jury is used to decide if there's enough evidence to support a criminal charge, and specifically what charges. Grand juries essentially do triage or intake on a case and usually only look into serious felonies like murder, rape, or kidnapping. In a trial, charges have already been presented, and it's the jury's job, with the judge mediating, to decide whether the defendant is guilty or innocent. While a trial jury usually has 6 to 12 people, a grand jury can have as many as 16 to 23 people. The prosecutor presents the case and evidence. The grand jury may request that the court submit further evidence, including witness testimony and subpoenas of documents. Unlike a trial, grand juries operate almost entirely in secret. The press is not allowed into the room, and neither is the public. This allows the defendant and witnesses to speak freely without injuring their reputation if the jury decides not to indict. Witnesses, however, are generally allowed to discuss their testimony. Unlike trial juries, grand juries do not need a unanimous decision to indict. They just need a supermajority, like 2/3 or 3/4, depending on the jurisdiction. The prosecutor is expected to act in good faith, but with no judge present and the grand jury closed to the public, there's concern about transparency. Grand juries have faced criticism in cases of police brutality. That was the case during the grand jury proceedings into the Tamir Rice case, a 12-year-old black boy who was shot and killed by police in 2014. The grand jury cleared the officer of any criminal wrongdoing.
Hey, thanks for watching.
So think back to all of those misconduct. Currently, I haven't really looked into the recent events, but the Derek Chauvin trial, I don't even know. I find it interesting that everyone and their cousin in that trial is pleading the fifth, but I'm not sure if that's a grand jury proceeding or not, because that's the thing about a lot of these proceedings. We don't even know. But I can tell you the Michael Brown case from 2014, that was a grand jury proceeding. So you start to wonder if these are secret cases, right? You can't have a lawyer. You're compelled to testify. They even said it themselves. Oh, we're not even sure if there's prosecutorial misconduct because you're not even privy to find out whether or not, because it's closed door. You don't get to find out what happens. The evidence is sealed. Anything like, for example, for Austin's case, he was not allowed to ever even see any of his discovery. We're talking like months and months and months later. He wasn't allowed to see the evidence that was being put forth against him. How insane. So you're supposed to defend yourself how? Well, let me defend myself with this evidence that I don't know that you have, and I also don't know what I need to do to defend myself because I can't see any of the evidence. You know, I just got to show up and, you know, take part in your little racket. It's unbelievable. So getting back to Aaron Swartz, what he did was while at Harvard, while essentially he co-founded Reddit, created RSS, co-founded and co-created SecureDrop, which is like the WikiLeaks, which became like WikiLeaks for all journalists once WikiLeaks stopped accepting anonymous contributions after 2010. And so all this good that this kid did, he never gave up. He never stopped. He never relented. So he felt that information, especially information that government grants and taxpayer dollars went into paying for, like research at any institution that's public/private, all of that is paid for by our tax dollars. But the problem is they paywall it and hide all of that research. They force it to be copywritten, and the copyright is only accessible to the wealthy. So if you were to say, for example, go into the system, be smarter than them, and try to break down their walls by allowing everyone to access the information, you would be labeled a terrorist under the Patriot Act, and they would go after you with the Secret Service, and they would make your life a living hell, even if you were the co-founder of Reddit, multi-millionaire, super successful, brilliant kid, founder of almost 20 to 30 different companies and or nonprofits/corporations that he was never interested in to begin with, because he just wanted the world to be a better place. He wanted to make a difference in the world, and I believe he absolutely did. Now, what we'll do from here is we'll try to play some of the Aaron Swartz content, and we'll see if we get kicked off YouTube or not. At this point, it is what it is, but we'll go ahead and run that.
Co-founder of the social news and entertainment website Reddit has been found dead.
He certainly was a prodigy, although he never kind of thought of himself like that.
He was totally unexcited about starting businesses and making money.
There's a profound sense of loss tonight in Highland Park, Aaron Swartz's hometown, as loved ones say goodbye to one of the internet's brightest lights.
Open access and computer activists are mourning his loss.
An astonishing intellect. You talk to people who knew him. He was killed by the government, and MIT betrayed all of its basic principles.
They wanted to make an example out of him, okay?
Governments have an insatiable desire to control.
He was potentially facing 35 years in prison and a $1 million fine.
Raising questions of prosecutorial zeal, and I would say even misconduct. Have you looked into that particular matter and reached any conclusions?
Growing up, I slowly had this process of realizing that all the things around me that people had told me were just the natural way things were, the way things always would be. They weren't natural at all. They were things that could be changed, and they were things that, more importantly, were wrong and should change. And once I realized that, there was really kind of no going back.
These people, dude. What a bunch of clowns. All right. This is fucking funny. All right, so anyways, yeah, absolutely, I agree 110% Liberty. If you guys haven't seen that documentary, please watch it. Please, 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 please take some time and go through it. It is absolutely worth it. It is, yeah, we should go for strike 3. Let's just fucking do it. Fuck you, YouTube. Honestly, like, I'm not allowed to play videos from a documentary and comment on it afterwards. Like, go fuck yourselves. Honestly, this is pathetic. What are we like? So, anyways, the point that I'm getting at is we're not gonna take this shit. So go ahead, block me, take my channel down. You don't advertise my shit anyways. At the end of the day, what I know is we're not gonna stop fighting back. We're not going to back down, and we're going to make sure that you motherfuckers pay. Because at the end of the day, businesses have something that's called public reputation. And when that public reputation is tarnished because people are no longer buying into your horseshit product, that is your problem. And so 100% when one business goes after another business because their articles of incorporation state that that's what they set out to do, look out. Look the fuck out, because that is what we're going to do. We're not going to stand by and let these assholes do what they want. We're not going to let them continue to make us feel like the alienated assholes on the outside thinking that they know what's what. These morons have no idea what's going on. They don't even know the laws that they passed themselves, because what do? They let these laws pass based on the moral incapacity and the fact that they have they're morally bankrupt, right? They don't have morals. They don't care for morals because they are immoral. These people are scumbags. And of course, people are going to say, "Well, don't say that. That's not nice. You're being, you're not being nice." These people are trying to silence us and literally put us into encampments and shut us up. Are you serious? I'm sorry, but at some point we have to fight back. And we're going to do that legislatively, and we're going to do that by the pen. We're not going to do it by creating noise and threatening in any threatening manner. No, we're going to do it the way they did it. Do you guys remember when Donald Trump first got into office, how many times he was sued, how much litigation he had to overcome? So what I'm going to do is, because they won't let me play anything without any sort of copyright, what we'll do is we'll read his Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto. So this is dedicated, obviously, this is episodes dedicated to Aaron Swartz, absolute hero. But here's his manifesto. This is what scared the government so much, just so you guys know. It goes, information is power, but like all power, there are those who want to keep it for themselves. The world's entire scientific and cultural heritage, published over centuries in books and journals, is increasingly being digitized and locked up by a handful of private corporations. Now, he goes on to say, want to read the papers featuring the most famous results of the science? You'll need to send enormous amounts to publishers like Reed Elsevier. There are those struggling to change this. The open access movement has fought valiantly to ensure that scientists do not sign their copyrights away, but instead ensure their work is published on the internet under terms that allow anyone to access it. But even under the best scenarios, their work will only apply to things published in the future. Everything up until now will have been lost. That is too high a price to pay. Forcing academics to pay money to read the work of their colleagues, ? Scanning entire libraries but only allowing the folks at Google to read them? Providing scientific articles to those at elite universities in the first world, but not to children in the global south. It's outrageous and unacceptable. I agree, many say, but what can we do? The companies hold the copyrights. They make enormous amounts of money by charging for access, and it's perfectly legal. There's nothing we can do to stop them. But there is something we can do. Something that's already being done. We can fight back. Those with access to these resources, students, librarians, scientists, you have been given a privilege. You get to feed at this banquet of knowledge, while the rest of the world is locked out. But you need not, indeed, morally you cannot, keep this privilege for yourselves. You have a duty to share it with the world. And you have trading passwords with colleagues, filling download requests for friends. Meanwhile, those who have been locked out are not standing idly by. You have been sneaking through holes and climbing over fences, liberating the information locked up by the publishers and sharing them with your friends. But all this action goes on in the dark, hidden underground. It's called stealing or piracy, as if sharing a wealth of knowledge were the moral equivalent of plundering a ship and murdering its crew. But sharing isn't immoral. It's a moral imperative. Only those blinded by greed would refuse to let a friend make a copy. Large corporations, of course, are blinded by greed. The laws under which they operate require it. Their shareholders would revolt at anything less, and the politicians they have bought off back them, passing laws, giving them the exclusive power to decide who can make copies. There is no justice in following unjust laws. It's time to come into the light and, in the grand tradition of civil disobedience, declare our opposition to this private theft of public culture. We need to take information wherever it is stored, make our copies, and share them with the world. We need to take stuff that's out of copyright and add it to the archive. We need to buy secret databases and put them on the web. We need to download scientific journals and upload them to file-sharing networks. We need to fight for guerrilla open access. With enough of us around the world, we'll not just send a strong message opposing the privatization of knowledge. We'll make it a thing of the past. Will you join us? Aaron Swartz. So, that is the message. That is the message that he is intending to send. That is the point that he was trying to make, and he died making that point. Unfortunately, as it may be, I don't buy a second of what the story states, but essentially he was caught up by the Secret Service, which, why were they investigating the case? Who the hell knows? You had the Secret Service who had MIT pass the evidence over to the Secret Service. So the question then would become, what did he really have? What did he access that made them so upset? What bothered them so much about what he was looking to present? Well, here's a nice little tidbit, right? So shortly after his untimely death, WikiLeaks tweets, "Due to the investigation into the Secret Service involvement with Aaron Swartz, we have decided to disclose the following facts, 1 through 3. The fact number 1, Aaron Swartz assisted WikiLeaks. Fact number 2, Aaron Swartz was in communication with Julian Assange, including during 2010 and 2011. And fact number 3, we have strong reasons to believe but cannot prove that Aaron Swartz was a WikiLeaks source." Now, some questions that might arise when first seeing this. Why didn't we hear about it? How come no one talks about it? And what really went on? What took place throughout all this? Was he really a source? Because WikiLeaks doesn't, one of the things that Julian Assange is very, very poignant about is to make sure that his sources do not get leaked. He doesn't like that. He's not about sources being exposed. So they protect their sources. That's one of their biggest points. That's one of the pillars they pride themselves by. So to come out after his death and so strongly bring up the Secret Service, so strongly connect the fact that there's some suspicion to his death, and also just how illicit and unfair a lot of what went on really was. Doing a shout, hit a quick shout out to Ben Father, that long time no talk, my man, and just going back into it. Realistically, what Aaron Swartz did was stick his neck out on the line, and he could have gone away. He could have just took the money he had and been okay with it and forgotten about how all this information is inaccessible to not only the third world, but to the majority of Americans. The majority of us people, we the people, we can't access these journals. We can't access this information. And he outsmarted them at every turn. He came up against legislation, PIPA and SOPA, which they were essentially trying to take over the internet back in 2012. He stops them and prevents them from doing so. Suddenly, 6 months later, he kills himself. I don't know. And all of that is sealed away, all of the case information, all the documents, all sealed away in grand jury proceedings. So we don't get to see any of it, at least we don't think. We don't get to know what he had. We don't get to know what he planned on showing everybody. Some of it's available, and I will drop a lot of the links to the court cases that he did make available that I think that they missed, combing through web crawls. There's a good like 27 to 30,000 documents that are inside of the web archive that I was able to dig up and find. But nonetheless, you have essentially the Secret Service. Why are they even getting involved? Right? You might say, oh, it's because in 2001, the Secret Service, or rather earlier than that, 84, Secret Service was put in charge of internet crimes, international internet crimes. Well, that's false, because Aaron Swartz wasn't trying to sell any of the information he had. He was trying to make it accessible to all. Essentially, he was trying to publish it. But exactly, just like Seth Rich, he wasn't trying to make money off this. He wasn't trying to do what Bill Gates and the rest of them do, which is making money off of a product. So because he wasn't trying to make money off the product, they could not manipulate him. He wasn't morally corrupt. And that was the problem. It had nothing to do with, it could have had a lot to do with what he was putting out there, because he was putting out laws that kick back to the early 1900s, even earlier than that. And so the point is that's a huge red flag, letting us know and indicating to us, at least with Plus Ultra, that's the focus. These people have screwed up. The 14th Amendment, never legally ratified. The 13th original Titles of Nobility Act, never legally removed, right? So just as there's a process to create new amendments, there's a process to remove or alter or abolish amendments, right? And so they didn't go through those parameters. They didn't care. They created Title 18, created this whole set of unethical USC codes that aren't even charges, which is why 98% of them never go to trial. Because the whole idea is that they just throw these slew of charges at you, make you think that you're going to face all this time, when in reality it's all Wonderland. It's all made up. It's all fictitious. None of it is real. So not only have we figured it out, but I've been in communication with Austin's old cellmate, and he's been providing me with documentation. And where before I didn't have certified copies of these documents, he has found and brought together certified copies. Not only that, he's helping a lot of others who are going through this process, this felonious process, and he's helping them get out without having to deal with this bogus system. And so what's great and what's amazing about that is he's going to be doing an interview with me in the next couple of days. And what we're going to do is we're going to be collectively pooling together our strengths, all of us together. And I want everybody who can help out to go to the website. It's PLVS VLTRA.org. Sign up. I know we've been through this repetitious situation quite a few times, but I promise you I'll be putting everything that I have behind this. I will be focusing my entire time. I have been focusing my entire time, my strengths, my energy behind it. This is all that matters to me, because if we don't correct this, there's no future. There is no what comes next, because what will come next is just things that we're not going to allow. So we have to stand up, we have to fight back, and we have to make a difference. And the difference starts with us. We're not going to get a savior. We've got Austin. He's got our back. He's with us. We've got his back. But that's all we ever needed to begin with, was we the people. We are the strength. We are the difference. And if we choose to make a difference, and if we choose to stand up and fight back, you better believe that is going to resonate and connect with hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. And it's just a step-by-step process that has to take place. So while I know there's been some rough and bumpy starts, you got to also understand that there's a lot of people, just like in this stream tonight, there are a lot of people that do not want this to happen. They do not want us to win. But it doesn't matter what they want, because we're going to will it. We're going to make it happen, and we're going to be the difference that we want to see in the world. if we want to allow these shenanigans to continue to take place, then we step aside, we disappear, and we act like it is what it is. But that's not on my menu. That's not on my list of options. We're going to fight back. We're going to show these people that they're not going to push us around anymore, because the tables have been turned and it's game on. So I hope everyone's ready. I know this this stream didn't go nearly as planned. What I'm going to do is pre-record them from now on moving forward. But I'm still going to do live streams too until they kick us off of YouTube. Until, the assholes literally watching this stream with 45 concurrent viewers decide that, I got something better to go do, until that happens. Or if it doesn't and the channel gets deleted, oh well. We're all connected. We all have each other's numbers. We're all communicating with one another. And I mean, yeah, it's just like Liberty said, we've been ready for this. We've been waiting. We've been literally sitting on the sidelines, like listening to all this nonsense being called this and called that, being belittled, told that we aren't this, we aren't that, we're stupid, we're conspiracy theorists. Yeah, we're conspiracy theorists, and we're conspiring to overthrow your nastiness and your disgusting deceit that we're done with, and we no longer accept your bullshit. So that's what it is at the end of the day. Doesn't matter whose side you're on. Doesn't matter who you represent. Doesn't matter who you stand for. We need to come together. Every single influencer, every single person that cares about the future, about humanity, about others. It's one team, one dream, where we go one, where we go all. And that is what needs to come into fruition. That is the focus moving forward. So I really, really, really encourage and hope that a lot of you will take a look at that documentary. We'll jump into it. We'll listen to it. It's called The Internet's Own Boy, Aaron Swartz. I will say that he was killed by the government because he didn't kill himself. That the government has overstepped its bounds. We've caught them red-handed. And the best part is now we get to go on a national scavenger hunt where we are going to basically call out for the things that we need. And the people are going to go and they're going to seek it out, whether it's from their local jurisdictions, their local places of interest. I got to watch what I say, but essentially, you'll know what we're looking for. You'll know what we're asking for. And so each and every single person going, recording it, documenting it, showing these fools that we know that they fucked up and that we're going to make them accountable for it, and not in a way that you're the worst person in the world. You're just morally bankrupt, that's just the truth. At the end of the day, you've been fighting for the wrong side, and, this is the time where you've got to humble yourself, accept what you've done, and, I don't really care what happens with you. At the end of the day, we're a better people worldwide. The mankind gets to move forward and become greater and become better through this. And so, You've got the greatest things that are birthed in pain, and this has been a very painful year. But I'm excited, I'm ready, and I hope you are all as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play what Alex Jones is doing with the illegal smuggling ops. I haven't watched Alex Jones in quite a while, but I'm excited to get back into the fray, to get connected, to get in with other people. The volunteer pod, I don't know if we dropped it in there, but I'll just drop it in again just because we should. Manage groups, invite links, copy link. I'll go ahead and drop this in. And what's great is one of Ben's videos, I'll end on that note if they don't kick us off for playing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that video that's about a year old now. It's my personal favorite proof, but I'm a little bit biased. Just a second here. And so it is the above and beyond proof. And so we'll play that, and hopefully YouTube suspends my channel after that one. And just remember that we're all a part of this. And I'm excited to have everybody on board, excited to have everybody a part of this. I'm going to find other channels to get out there and be a part of. Please get into the Telegram groups. But other than that, I guess I'll take some questions before we before we end, since we can't play any of the content that I have. Any questions? Let's see. On banned video, they have dozens of hours of them bringing lines of printout to various locations and storing them. Yeah, see, all that shit's unconstitutional, and it's and it's not okay, right? So when Donald Trump was in office, the idea was they're going to sue him for breathing oxygen. You know, they didn't give a shit. They didn't care what he was doing. They literally sued him every step of the way. And so Trump isn't stupid, right? He knows, okay, you know, you guys got in the morally bankrupt version of this corporation, and you guys don't realize that I pulled out all the strings and I hotwired it. But like, that's the part where instead of sitting there and saying to ourselves, oh, well, we're the good guys, you know, we're going to operate with a different set of standards. Like, no, these people are ruthless. They don't give a shit about what happens to us. They don't care about us. So to sit there and pretend like what they're doing is right, morally okay, and just by any sense of the imagination is just, it's not going to work. We have to fight back the same way they fought back, through the law, legally, and just, you know, make things a lot more difficult than what we're doing now. And it's to no fault of anybody's, because at the end of the day, we're all good people, but we've got to fight back for what is ours, you know. And if we don't, then, you know, be prepared for a lot worse, because, you know, they say they're packing the court, they say that they're taking our rights away. They want, you know, they're in control of all three legislatures, you know, all three versions of government. And we're supposed to believe that, you know, these people, this isn't a movie. Obviously it is. But at the end of the day, we got to think that the majority of people don't see that, and they're not connecting with that. So we have to show them, guide them, and help them through all this. And so that's my intention. That's what I hope to do. And I hope to help as many people, you know, as possible. And I'm not going to stop until this is done. And it's not about me. It's about we. So as long as we make a difference and as long as we change the world, that's the opportunity we have in front of us. Like, we literally have an opportunity to make the world a better place, which has been something that I've always wanted to do. Leave this earth better than I found it. So I hope that other people resonate with that. I hope others in this chat or in this stream that's gone a little bit bumpy, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I hope everybody is on the same page. And what we'll do is, so Austin's cellmate knows status correction. Yes, he does. And he has documentation to prove it. So what we've got to do is we've got to help him out, and we've got to put him on a pedestal, right? Because unfortunately, because he was just in the system, right, he's on their radar. But at the same time, he's got the documentation that allowed them to literally have him taken right out as soon as he showed them the documentation. So he knew what was going on. He knew what was happening while he was in there. And so not only was he able to present that documentation, but he was able to help others also present it, so much so that they kicked him out of the Arizona complex and moved him to California, because they knew had he stayed there, his influence would have grown to such a level, to such an extent, that it would have become a real serious problem. So he's gotten many of others out, but I'll let him speak for what he's done and the difference he also is working to make. But we're going to do that through Plus Ultra. And the point of it is, right, it's not about I have money that I would love, and I'm going to invest in this, but the idea that what I'm going to bring to the table is going to be enough is just simply not the truth. We're talking about multinational corporations. We're talking about billion-dollar industries, people that have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lawyers just on standby, because it's been a racket, right? They're using the system that is creating money out of thin air and essentially incorporating it, limited liability companies, differentiating their assets, then throwing it all off into a offshoot that's offshore. None of the losses that they pay for. The taxpayers pay for all of it. So that's us. But we'll get into that. We'll cover all that. And yeah, the stream is hidden now, right? Probably because they're going to delete this channel after this. No big deal. Not worried about it. I'll get on other platforms. But Please do get into the Telegram chat. I think I've linked it a couple times. I really do believe that if we're going to do this thing, we got to do it together. And please funnel in there. I'll get you guys the information. I'll get you guys all of the legal aspect to all of this. And what the fun thing is, we're going to need every single person, right, to go out, record, show, okay, this is real. He's not bullshitting. He's not just talking, because this is true. And if it's not true, then then I'm obviously just up here, just wasting time, and I'm obviously not doing that. So at the end of the day, we're going to show people that not only is everything that we've been talking about and focusing on true, but we've got a better future ahead of us, just so long as we accept that we are in charge. We have the power. They don't rule over us. Their stupid imaginary wonderland world of legalese and laws are exactly that. Created fictitiously, and they'll disappear in the same way. Where do you think this leaves Ripple? The SEC case is falling. Failing? Failing. Okay. I think just before, right? So if everybody got to know without faith that the system was going to flip on its head, what I truly believe is that if all the bankers, all the top-notch executives were being given information, whether that's disinformation or authentic information, we all know they don't do their own research. So this is a thing where whether XRP goes up or it goes down, the utility and the use case for it, and I'm telling you, having worked in banking, getting there first, timing, being the fastest, it's like a track, right? You're on a track and you're running track, right? The fastest person, the person who can maintain speed and also acceleration and also be the fastest, is the person that is going to win at the end of the day. So you got Bitcoin that's being sponsored by everybody, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But at the end of the day, its use case, its utility, the amount of energy it wastes per transaction is unfeasible. So you have to remember, when you need this to be something that's used on a worldwide scale, who are they going to meet with when Bitcoin one day just crashes and, I don't know, all the funds that Satoshi, whoever he is, decides, he just, who is he? Come meet with the better question is this: how did the SEC come to determination that Bitcoin and Ethereum were under the asset class versus security class? How did they make that determination? And in contrary, or on the contrary, how did they also decide that XRP was the opposite? In one case with XRP, or Ripple, you've got a group of people, a board of individuals, most of which who are the ones who created Bitcoin. They're all accessible. You can talk to all of them. You can meet with all of them. You can actually have a conversation. They can open up their books. Let me know when Satoshi Nakamoto meets with the SEC. When that happens, then I'll shut up. But the revelation that's going to wake a lot of people up is the idea that if this guy doesn't show, or there's no documentation to show that there was any sort of conversation or any sort of open books to seeing what took place in that determination, that's not okay, at least in the moral world. So what I would say is, the billionaires, millionaires, and people who are telling you to invest in this, invest in that, they might make a nice quick buck now, but when that decision falls, whether it's the SEC case and or it's the private bank falling apart, either or, the second that happens, the people using the utilities are going to go with the utility that is the fastest, the most efficient, and the most secure. And of those three, you're talking XRP all day. And I mean, there's no doubt about it. Whether you're on the left or the right, energy efficiency, the amount of energy that Bitcoin wastes, the utility doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I mean, 75 gallons of gas per transaction, going through all those computers to check it out and make sure it makes sense. There's no way. But if you hold XRP, just put it somewhere safe and forget about it. Don't react to price changes and bad news. 100%. I agree 100%. Invest what you can afford. Don't overinvest. Don't go in too deep. And, you know, just have fun, because there's a lot of good that's ahead. And we're going to be the difference. Is that working in banking previously? I agree with Michael 100%, Dave. Yep. It's just the truth. And so you don't need the numbers to verify it, and you don't need the numbers to feel good about it, because you know if you do your own research that is the truth at the end of the day. And it's facts and reason that allowed you to make that decision and make that investment, and just know that it's going to pay off. And when that happens, the exact time of it, I mean, I'm pretty sure Flare and the DFLR coin that is going to peer off from Flare, fork off rather, I believe that is supposed to be somewhere between, I think it was March and the end of May. So if that's got to kick in somewhere between March and May, you would think that, you know, the system and a lot of what's going to be coming in the near future is going to take place and play out very soon. So let's see. Also, behind the judge's back, the SEC violated U.S. civil court rules by issuing multiple MOUs to obligate foreign governments to obtain files from @Ripple's forum. Of course, because they're scumbags, you know. And, you know, maybe this is, you know, I see this as also a potential lesson for the SEC in biting off more than it can chew, or maybe this is just all movie and we're just watching it play out. So either way, at the end of the day, this is going to be fun. We're going to need everybody, literally. And I'm not saying that like surreptitiously or just for fun or to be hokey. We literally need everybody. We need everybody involved. We need everybody to communicate. We need everybody to gather this information, because there's an untapped section of our world history that has been yet to be revealed. So literally we'll be making history by uncovering this stuff, getting certified copies of it, finding the documentation, verifying it, doubling it, tripling it, you know, quadrupling it. So finding it in other areas of government, and, you know, we're gonna do what we have to do to uncover it. So I hope everybody's excited. Yeah, I'm sure they will be watching. I'm sure they will be coming after us. But hey, we're gonna bring the heat. And so here is one. Austin Sandbar put me on Dr. P a year ago. I went all in and never looked back. Absolutely, and he wants nothing more than the best for all of us. He also just wants to, you know, just complete this mission and bring it to the end. So we've got to work for that. Who knows how far along or what the map is going to look like, but it's going to be fun. And as long as we learn from our missteps, we'll get there in the end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign off with this, my personal favorite proof. It's a little biased, but it's from Ben's channel, and I hope Ben links to his channel, but if not, I'll do it myself. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry for the nonsense. Go fuck yourselves, YouTube, and God bless. Have a good night. Favorite music, genre, and favorite band?
Love Above and Beyond is one of my favorite musicians.